getting into the game development market is actually quite of a struggle. So I found Discord bots as an easy way to, or like an easier way to, gain some audiences to actually try and play the games that I wanted to build. So that's where the idea of Quark started, which is my little game studio that I'm working. It's my little game studio that my bots are built under. I'm also currently working as a backend engineer at a community development company called Windwalk. So I basically built the first bot, which was Isles of GG. It was a little RPG game on Discord, and then started another one earlier, like last year, which is Bake. And apparently, Bake was more successful than Isles. Unfortunately, I mean it's cool. I made both, but yeah, I built Bake with a friend of mine called Fadlu. So yeah, it's fun. It's it's a very interesting market. And for the island, I would say I don't know. That's a hard question. Probably the hardest one. Okay, I'll say maybe some Red Bull, a chicken ranch pizza. Uh, Hold on, and of course, yeah, Discord.js documentation. That's something I need. So yeah, that's it for me.
Great choices there. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, we'll move on to our second panelist today, who is Kodyline. And Kodyline is the owner of Chatsight. Chatsight is a bot that's in about 1,400 servers. And it brands itself as a full AI anti-scam right at your fingertips. And it's powered by GPT models, which allow you to defend against malicious URLs and messages with zero setup required. It has automatic security auditing included, and also a crowdsourced community reputation service that allows you to keep users with a bad reputation out of your community. So go ahead, Kodyline, if you want to say a few words.
Hey Mac, thanks so much for having me. So I'm Marcus. Kodyline is just the name, but I'm from Ireland, and I got started. We were building a content moderation, AI API, for early stage social networks. But then we realized that the actual, the need on Discord was pretty interesting. So we started, understanding would people be interested in it, and we found out really quickly that people, especially in the crypto community, your thoughts about crypto aside, people getting scammed is still a negative outcome. They really wanted it, as well as non-crypto users alike. And we started building it, we started training it, and we realized that it was performant enough to actually, stop real harm happening. And from there, we started building new features. We launched, duplicate account protection, verification flows, bot raids before bot raids were first party. And now we're kind of more expanding out into the analytics front where, you can kind of see where your users are interacting off platform. You can see how your users are interacting with your Twitter, with your Telegram, with anything. And we're going down this kind of idea that, hey, your community doesn't just stop because they're not interacting with you on Discord today. So that's the 1, 2. As for the 3 things, I'd bring a satellite phone, a lighter, and some water purification because I'm pretty practical about that.
Very sensible choices there. All right, cool. Okay, we're going to move on to Nathan now, who is the owner of Double Counter. Double Counter is in around 260,000 servers, and it's an anti-raid bot, anti-alt account, and VPN blocker. It allows server owners to put in place instant verification based on a user's IP, cookies, and other advanced fingerprinting techniques to block alts. And Double Counter also allows community owners to implement strong server protection, all while making the verification process quick and easy for any users joining the server. Go ahead, Nathan, if you want to say a few words about yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm super happy to be here. My name is Nathan, I'm 19 years old, I'm from Paris, France. I'm not an engineering student at all, I'm a student in business, but I do development as a passion. I've been doing that for 10 years. And I'm the owner of Double Counter and Identifier, which was the original Discord alt blocking bot. And today I'm managing those 2 bots, but they're very 2 different products. Like Double Counter is our data-powered alt detection tool, while Identifier is our social network verification product. And on Desert Island, I would probably bring my laptop, of course, a coffee machine, probably, because I can't live without coffee, and my friends.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Okay, next we're going to move on to Crawl, and Crawl maintains the Discord.js library. Discord.js has had over 17 million downloads this year alone, and it's one of the most widely used libraries that allow bot developers to interact with the API using JavaScript and TypeScript. It's easy to learn, highly documented, and has 100% coverage of the Discord API, so all the new features that Discord opened to developers can be used with Discord.js. So go ahead, Crawl, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. My name is Paul. Most people probably know me from Discord.js and nothing else, because that's all I do basically all day. Yeah, we have like the biggest Discord library currently going with a far margin. We're pretty far ahead of the Python library, which is like the second most successful one, which is the one Danny maintains. We are very well versed when it comes to like the whole JavaScript space and TypeScript space. I think we take up the most majority of bots and newcomers even. There's a lot of other JavaScript libraries that we have out there, but most of the beginners usually start by us with us. I'm not the creator of Discord.js. I'm the second owner of it. The creator is Amish, which stepped down last year. But yeah, since I started developing, or like since I started taking over, we basically wrapped around the whole process. And I'm still writing a lot of code, but I'm mostly in a project management position at this point. So I try to see that things go smoothly, and all of our contributors are doing the stuff they need to do and move releases forward. For 3 items that I would bring, probably a solar panel so I can charge my phone, which my phone is my second item. And I don't know, a boat would probably be cheating, so I'd probably bring like a knife or something, right? Thanks.
I would maybe consider a boat cheating, yeah. All right, awesome. Okay, we're going to move on now to the last panelist, who is LeMorrow, and he's the owner of Needle. Needle is in about 4,000 servers, and it's a bot that helps you declutter your server by creating Discord threads automatically when messages are sent in certain channels. So this allows you to easily create ticketing systems, discussion boards, and support channels tailored to your server. And it's also 100% customizable, which makes it really great to be able to fit it in with your theme of your server perfectly. So go ahead, LeMorrow, if you want to introduce yourself and say a few words.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm Marcus, or LeMorrow, and I'm, as you said, developer of Needle. I had a similar background as Haas mentioned, where you started in game design. I also had that path. Also, I want to apologize in advance. I'm in a car right now. It's gonna get better soon, so I hope the audio quality is okay. But yeah, so I started in game design, and then I went on to move developing full stack applications professionally, and then now I'm a full-time student, and I started doing Discord bots on the side. I'm gonna keep it short. So my 3 things I would bring to an island is probably like a tent. Water purifier was a good idea as well. If a boat is cheating, then satellite phone might also be cheating, but no, I'm gonna stick with satellite phone. Thanks.
Cool, awesome. All right. Okay, so the way today's event is going to work is we're going to have some questions for all our panelists, and then we're going to have specific questions for each panelist. And then finally, to close up, we're going to have our AMA, where the public have submitted their questions in our thread in announcements. All right, so for our first question, it is, can you tell us about your bot and what inspired you to create it? We're going to start with Haas on this.
Yeah, sure. So, right. So with Bake, as I mentioned, I had the interest for game design, and I was like, okay, that's a cool market to start with. So Bake is a Discord integrated game. Well, as you previously mentioned, where you can build your bakery. It offers plenty of customizations and other mini games. And what inspired me to create it was basically I just wanted to offer, unique game experiences on Discord, which actually has a visually appealing aspect of it. So yeah, that's just how Bake started, and same with other bots I own. Thanks.
Cool, awesome. All right, I'm gonna move on to Kodyline now.
Yeah, so our inspiration was that we originally asked by the owners of Constitution DAO way back when if we could help them with AI content moderation, and we whipped up a pretty quick solution. Thank you, Discord.js, and we eventually started maturing the bot over and over until we realized that this wasn't just a once-off and it could stand on its own legs. We were primarily on the focus that we were building a single code base for our application to be both on Discord and Telegram. So we have this kind of shared code base where we now build features once, and we have our own kind of bindings back towards those respective platforms. And I guess in that kind of way, that kind of incentivizes us to keep building new features because the barrier for adoption is pretty low on our side.
Super interesting. Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting project. I had a chance to play around with it a while ago. It's very cool. All right, we're going to move on to LeMorrow. Can you tell us a bit about your bot too and what inspired you to create it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Needle started as a project in the server for Astro, which is a web framework, which is full of developers, and they had a lot of questions when they were developing, like a support server or support channel rather. And we noticed pretty early that the support channel was getting very clogged up, and people were talking over each other, and it was hard to find, answers to the questions that had previously been answered. So the most popular questions were kind of hard to find the answers because there were so many, discussions going on at the same time, which is a problem like many programming servers have. So this was also around the time where threads were becoming a thing on Discord, and people weren't very used to them. So it's hard to force people to use threads because nobody really knew how to do it, and most people didn't do it, even if they knew how to do it. So our idea was to just make a bot that automatically creates a thread for every message, which makes it easy to find, the focused discussions around every question. It also makes it easier to search up like all the answers later on, and you don't need to know anything about threads to get started by using the bot because it does it automatically for you. So yeah, that's kind of the inspiration for how we started.
That's a really great way of getting the community to use Discord tools, but without necessarily needing to know how to do it, which is super interesting. Great way of allowing server owners to keep things organized. Yeah, awesome. All right, Crawl. Obviously, we're not talking about a bot here. It's like a Discord library. But perhaps you might know a bit about how it started and what inspired it to be created in the first place.
Yeah, sure. I was in a pretty tight relationship with Amish, so I pretty much know everything that that he was talking about when he started or he was thinking about, because I only joined like 1 year after he started it, which was like the first official release of like a usable library. The first few iterations were like, not mentionable. Probably you can probably find them even on like npm or something, but it's like it's not a good look on anything that we currently have. But yeah, the start was basically just that he was still like a teenager in school at this point, and it was like 2015, so like 7 years ago already. And he just wanted to like learn stuff, right? Like learn JavaScript and start out his whole journey on being a developer, which he is quite successful at this point. And I think it's just all about the learning experience, right? Like how to work with APIs in general. Then the whole voice stuff, right? It's very interesting. It's very low level on Discord, even like this whole UDP connection building, the whole parsing and for the voice frames you get to like get the whole music starting, right? Now at this point we have the whole problem with music and it's not really allowed anymore, and yada yada yada. We get the whole point of this, but it's basically just a whole learning experience, and like all the things he learned along the way helped him immensely now with his whole career, and it's even like the most prominent spot in his portfolio, right? And I would say the same counts for me too, right? Like at this point, Discord.js is so big. There's even in Europe at this point, there is every time some company looks at my portfolio, they see it and they look at it and they're like, oh yeah, I've worked with this already, right? Or I've built something in this. So yeah, it's all about making like a good journey and a good experience and a good learning experience. And I think Discord.js is a good place in that because we don't build any contrived things. It's really just very easy to get into too.
Yeah, that's a super inspiring story. I think it's interesting how people can build whole careers based off projects they've worked on Discord. It's really amazing to see. I think it applies to a lot of people as well who really get invested in their projects. So, all right, great. Okay, let's move on to our next question then. So, if you can't choose your own bots, what is your favorite bot? Nathan, do you want to get us started?
Sure. I think I didn't really tell how I started Double Counter. I can.
Sorry. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. And then maybe if you want to follow on with the next one.
Well, initially I was working as an amateur developer for a Fortnite community on Discord 4 years ago, and they paid me 20 euros. They had a lot of problems with alt accounts on their servers, and they paid me 20 euros, which was a ton for me at the time, to create a verification system to block alts on their server. And so I created that, and it worked. It worked way better than I expected. I received tons and tons of DMs from people that wanted to pay me for me to develop the same system on their servers. And the Fortnite community I was working for suggested to pay me for me to give them the rights over the code. And that's when I smelled that something was a bit off, and I decided to create my own project, leave them, create my own thing, and instead of creating specific solutions, create a common solution that everybody could configure to make it their own. And
Cool.
And as a bot that I would choose, I would probably choose Utix. It's not a very well-known bot, I think, but it's a bot that it's packed with a lot of science commands that can do a lot of things, science and computing commands, random, fun commands. It's a great toolkit that does a ton of things that is not that well-known, but that I love having on a server.
Oh, interesting. Awesome. Might look that one up later. All right. Okay, let's move on to LeMorrow then. If you can't choose your own bot, what's your favorite bot?
I would probably pick Thread Watcher, which is made by Family Friendly, which I think is a mod for Top GG. I really like this bot because it's very single purpose, and it works well with my bot, which I'm partial to, of course. But many of my users use Thread Watcher as well, and I think it's just so simple and so well aligned with my goals as well. And it's open source, and it's made by a very friendly guy as well. It's even in the name. So yeah, I have to pick Thread Watcher for sure.
Yeah, that is a cool bot. Yeah, of course, I know that one too. All right, let's move on to you, Hoss. Can you tell us?
Yep.
If you can choose your own bot.
Sure. I would definitely go with Hydra. Hydra it's a music bot. It's been my favorite music bot that I've used in a long while, because it kind of it takes a whole channel where you can put in music like a music player, and yeah, it's just been my little company for a long while. So that's cool.
Yeah, Hydra is really good. We use it in this server. It was just in this podium, sorry, a bit earlier. All right, Crawl, if you can't choose a bot maybe that you might have made yourself, what would be your favorite bot?
Well, okay, for a fact, I do have a bot myself, but it's more like a single purpose bot, right? It's really only on the Discord share server for our own moderation purposes, because we have so many specific things that we need to take care of. But if I had to choose, well, first of all, every bot developed out there is a great bot, right? Every single step that's being done out there is really great. So every bot developer that does its job and makes a bot and just has fun with it, great bot. You guys are doing a good job. But I'm probably gonna botch a few names here, but I'm more into this whole gaming area, because I think bringing a game in a Discord chat is really, really hard. So I think I would say because I don't know, I'm pretty big on gacha games sometimes. So Karada or Mudai, both very popular bots, doing a really good job in that department. But also Pokemeow, or in the sense of Poke2, which is the successor, the spiritual successor of Pokecord, which was a really, really great bot. I think I would have to pick one of those type of bots. Bringing a game to Discord is really hard, and if you do it right, you're having a great experience for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Game bots are definitely my favorite too. All right, Kodyline, what about you?
Yeah, I guess this might be slightly cheating, but I found that Midjourney's decision to use Discord as the primary vehicle for the AI generated art before the hype was pretty unique. You know, they could have decided to make the entire experience as just some React page, but they decided to put in the effort to make it a complete native Discord experience. And I found that like almost eye-opening to, you know, as saying, hey, you can use, you know, these frameworks as a drop-in for the UI that you would have expected from React for 1/10 of the cost. And I found that as quite inspirational, really.
Yeah, I was also super inspired by that bot. I remember joining the server, like it was only like a couple of 100,000 people in there when I joined, and now it's probably one of the biggest servers on Discord. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next question then. So, in your opinion, what's the biggest misconception of being a bot developer? Maybe Kroll can get us started on this.
The biggest misconception of being a bot developer. Phew. I think that a lot of bot developers are very, 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 very good at what they do in the back end. But I think knowing front end, for example, is a whole nother debacle. And just being good in everything, just because you know a bit of JavaScript, I don't think that really applies to anyone here. Or like, not even JavaScript, it could be like Golang, C#, whatever you guys write your bots in, right? Feel free. But I think your skill set, just because you start Discord bots, might be very limited, which is okay. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you can cover each field. You can do everything you do just because you build a bot once, right? It's good to be very on the outlook and confident in your abilities. But I think, yeah, everyone has a lot to learn, and bot developers are very good at what they do, but they can't do everything. And I think a lot of people just forget that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Having a few design skills definitely helps as well, I think. Yeah. All right. Okay, moving on to Nathan now.
Yeah, that's a hard question. I would say that probably it might be that we spend all our time coding, but that's very close to the common misconception of being a developer in general. So yeah, there's a lot of other things involved rather than coding. There's business, branding, community management, staff management, and really creating a bot is a massive puzzle. It's just not coding. We're not people staying all night behind a computer screen. Well, sometimes we are, but it's not the typical idea you would have of a bot developer.
Yeah, I agree. I think the amount of time I spend coding on my bot is probably a lot less compared to all the rest of the management on top, for sure. All right, moving on to Kodyline now.
Yeah, I guess people seem to underestimate the amount of support that goes into supporting, you know, individual users. Yeah, the code is the one part, but the actual, you know, educating, the amount of time that goes in to writing documentation, especially to the end users of your user, their experience, it almost reflects that you have to solve this very specific niche problem right now. Otherwise, you know, why are they using you? It's like this real pull, you know, push and pull from people demanding X when either Y is not realistic or it's expected. And it's just, you know, it's like people underestimate how much, you know, time we have for responding to DMs by and large. It kind of gets daunting when you have, you know, a large base of users, and yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, for sure. Support is definitely a tough part of the job, for sure. All right, LeMorrow.
That is exactly what I was going to say as well. Yeah, I think most people think that it's a lot about developing new features, but support does take a long time, and also maintenance, like keeping up with Discord API and Discord JS updates, and that can also take a lot of time, and just like fixing bugs in general. The users find is definitely something I think most people underestimate. So yeah, I just have to agree with everyone else.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's definitely not all coding. All right. And finally, Hoss.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, they pretty much covered it all. Maybe I could just say that they're not necessarily, you know, coding pros, or like they don't have like all the language knowledge in the world, but it's more like a lot of Discord bot developers could be just hobbyists who want to make like a little bot for the server or something just for fun. So yeah, just don't necessarily expect the greatest advice from the bot developer just because they're a bot developer. Not everyone is an expert in what they do unless they're actually an expert. Sorry, unless they're actually experts. I hope it makes sense, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we touched on this a bit already, but as a bot developer, you have to wear many hats at the beginning of your projects, from products and design and branding to community building and actually getting your hands dirty with coding. My next question is, how has your experience personally been from all of this? Kodyline?
Yeah, honestly, when this is, I'm not trying to give fanboys, but when I switch from, when I go from developing on Telegram using the available libraries to Discord, it feels just the creativity and the level of flexibility with Discord's JS in particular. It's like it's more rewarding than actually building the feature itself, and I find that that keeps it's satisfying. It keeps me engaged, and I really appreciate it exists.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Moving on to Haas. How has your experience been building these kinds of projects?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think you have to wear like a lot of hats, especially when it comes to like a game like a game bot. You have to go from economy or like camera design, game design, maybe even like doing some graphic work. So it's definitely challenging. But again, like having like side skills apart from the actual coding experiences does help in that case. As for me, I used to be a UI designer for like 4+ years, so that was like a benefit for me to actually get a boost with that kind of stuff, so I don't have to like hire more people, like cut down costs. But yeah, you should definitely try different stuff to do in the bot.
Yeah, it's a great way of getting to try different things for sure. But I suppose as it scales, it becomes more complicated to be all around the place and doing everything. All right, LeMorrow, how about you? How has your experience been?
Yeah, hopefully my audio is a little bit better now. So I was primarily in it for the software development from the start. But I knew also that branding and community is important. So I started out by just I was fortunate enough to have a girlfriend that is a professional designer, so she could help me with making a logo and then all the branding. And I also had some experience with moderating Discord servers, but building my own community was something that I think was pretty hard, and I'm still like, it's not easy. So it's a learning experience, but I think that's also part of the fun. Like it's you maybe start thinking out it's only just developing a Discord bot, but then you realize you have to do all these other things too, and that's it's fun learning, always learning new things.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely helps to know someone in design. Yeah. All right. Nathan, how about you? Do you do all of it, or do you have other people who help you?
I loved it doing all those several different things, and it made me grow a lot in all aspects of creating and running a complete business from scratch. Especially for technical business stuff, creating an actual company, doing paperwork with tax reports and administrative documents, managing a support team, having responsibilities for the first time towards paying customers. It has not always been easy, but I'm very, very grateful. And as Kodyline said, it keeps you engaged. It gives you a reason to wake up on mornings, and it's an amazing experience to have all those different things that you try and get better at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think taxes and stuff like that can definitely be daunting in the beginning. I think another misconception is a lot of people don't actually realize that a lot of bots out there are actually businesses, and we are bot developers, and this is like a job for us or a side hustle, and we do have to file taxes and stuff like that, and it's definitely a lot to learn if you're not familiar with it already. All right, Crawl, how has your experience been working with Discord.js? When it comes to product designing, branding, community building, how does that work over there?
Yeah, well, this ties in with the last question. I may have come off a bit strong on the last one, but I think it was more like something against myself too, right? Like, because like you have to wear so many hats. Like the question already basically faces it, and other people have said too. I think it's good to be good in a lot of things, but being a jack of all trades makes it very hard to like focus on one thing, right? I'm good at community building, product designing, coming up with ideas, coding, everything. But it's more like I want to do a specific thing and really excel at that thing. So having people help me out in the other areas that I might be good at, but I don't want to like focus all my time on it, because the whole community building takes time, very, very, very much time. So that's why I have hired more or less a whole team of moderators that just keep the server clean, so I can just do the whole development on GitHub, while everyone else does the coding on top of it, because I can't maintain 6 or 7 libraries on my own, right? It's pretty much impossible. So like knowing your limits, I think, is really, really important. And while it may come as a safe or cost saving initiative to like do a lot of things on your own, the bigger something gets, the more it needs to be scaled, the harder it gets to do everything on your own. And I think you just won't have the time to do everything. You will just lag behind, and you won't make barely any progress because you need to touch like 5 areas at the same time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As a project grows, it's more and more complicated to be in all of those hats for sure. So yeah, reaching out for help and hiring mods and stuff is definitely very helpful. All right. Okay, so as you've grown a business reliant on Discord, have you considered the need to branch out to other platforms so as not to put all your eggs in one basket? Nathan, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, absolutely, a lot. I thought about it so many times, but our problem is that there's no platform that has such a high traffic as Discord has. And in my case, for a verification bot, this is the most important part, traffic. So I'm always looking for new ideas to invest in, but currently, instead of trying to branch out to other platforms, our strategy is more horizontal expansion within Discord to cope with that problem. So that's why we had acquired Identifier 3 months ago, for this specific reason of not putting all your eggs in one basket. In case one bot goes down, there's other solutions. And that's a strategy that we plan on going on with the future, and that we're going on with right now, even though I can't tell a lot more right now.
Interesting, super interesting strategy there. All right. What about you, LeMorrow?
Yeah, so Needle isn't really a business, and I don't make money from Needle. There are some very generous, donations, but it's nothing I ask for really, or intend to ever get. So it's just volunteer stuff. So yeah, I don't really have a question on that. I don't, I haven't really considered branching out, because for me, it's it's fun while it lasts. So yeah, that's a little different perspective from most other people here, I think.
Yeah, super interesting. Yeah, so it's much more of a smaller side project. So I suppose, yeah, it's super interesting to have your point of view there too. What about you, Kodyline?
Yeah, we have an interesting perspective in the sense that we raised venture capital on the basis that we're building a multi-platform kind of framework. Well, not framework, framework in the sense of, managing and maintaining, your user base across platforms. And we found that, scaling a business with venture capital on Discord is possible. It's just that most, people who have the money to invest in your business have no familiarity or insight into whether Discord is just another, I don't know, Facebook for apps situation. I guess the biggest problem these days is that they they need a lot of convincing on the platform risk for Discord, where their biggest question is, given that Discord likes to build everything in-house, will your bot become obsolete with the next feature? So we do kind of take the view that de-risking is necessary when you've raised, I guess, venture capital, even though the likelihood and the friendliness of Discord is such that it's never going to really be a tangible issue. It's still something to consider.
Right, cool. So I suppose that's more driving innovation within the platform itself, which is also a really nice strategy to have. All right, Hoss, how about you?
Right. So we're kind of working on games, right? Eventually, I think, at least in my perspective, we do plan eventually on like branching out to actually building standalone games at a certain point in the near future. So it's not always going to be on Discord for us. I mean, but regardless, it's definitely going to be like majorly based on Discord. Like we can build like a game that actually, bridges out from Discord to like a standalone game on Steam or something. But yeah, I have definitely considered that, and I think it's a good option for people who want to build games eventually. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, cool. I also looked up some of your games, and they're also they look really cool too.
Thank you, appreciate
All
it.
right. Okay, so what about you, Crawl? Obviously working on Discord.js. Any plans for Gilded.js or any other platforms anytime soon?
No. But I have a few thoughts generally speaking for like bot developers out there, which goes across the whole putting your eggs all in one basket. But I think you should double down on Discord. I don't think you should branch out too much. If you have an idea that allows it to branch out, like the whole gaming or the Web3 stuff, yes, of course, branch out as much as you can, right? Obviously. But if you have something that's a bit more niche or something that really only works with like high driven user interaction and it kind of needs Discord to function in a certain way, I think you should double down on that, because we're still not really on the peak. We are still getting up there. Discord is introducing monetization options for like server owners, for bot owners. So you will be able to generate more money on platform instead of just off platform, which a lot of people do right now. It might be a bit harder to go into the whole venture capital thing. Yes, I agree with Kodyline there. It's a bit hard to do that if you don't have like a grand scheme of an idea. But if you just look for monetization and keep the community drive really high, I think you can do really, really well on Discord. I'll probably say like in a year from now, we have not even a year, half a year maybe, we have enough tools to get proper monetization on like bots and servers to like keep the drive of money really in app and keep the incentive of people spending money inside of the app even.
Yeah,
Just to
for
add to
sure.
that, just a quick, it's in Discord's interest to, fundamentally grow both parties, the users and the developers. So, it's literally in their life strategy. They have their own investors they need to satisfy. So Discord needs to grow. And I guess that's the biggest incentive and the reason to stay around.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Cole was saying, there are lots of interesting features in the pipeline heading our way, which are really great to see and be able to drive more creativity as well and encourage people to create bots. It's good to see. It's definitely great. All right. Okay, next question then. So, as your bot has grown, how has it been scaling your project? How has this affected your tech stack throughout the time you've developed your projects? Haas, do you want to get us started?
Sure. So for the first bot, it has been quite chaotic. As like I basically had like little to no development experiences. So yeah, so when it came to Bake, which is like my second project, I already had like scalability in mind. So we kind of like built the product to be future proof in a way. So yeah, so now it's currently like withstanding properly. It's just using interaction endpoints, and it's just working very very smoothly. And like we don't have to like worry about charge, nothing at all. It's just directly communicating with Discord in a way. So now it actually functions well in, like on large traffic and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely worth noting scalability before you start working on the project. So you don't have to like rewrite a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Scaling and having to refactor code is a total nightmare. All right. Okay, Kodyline, what about you?
Yeah, we started using HashiCorp Nomad about since the start, and there's an interesting play where HashiCorp Nomad will actually manage the sharding by a quirk of the features of how it indexes the containers, sort of in a Kubernetes way, where we kind of have it a way where we never really have to worry about the ID of the shard of the the underlying Docker container. So if you're looking for sharding and you don't want IPC, it's pretty interesting using something like HashiCorp Nomad for sharding your bots indefinitely. Um, you know, it's definitely something to look out for as a replacement for Kubernetes. I think it plays a lot better with what the sharding kind of employs. But other than that, we've just been sticking to traditional, monolithic containers that are just assigned their shard ID by the orchestrator.
Yeah. Again, scaling is hard. All right. LeMorrow, do you want to share a bit about how you scaled your projects?
Yeah, for sure. So my bot isn't that big. We're in 4,000 servers. Although in those 4,000 servers, it's like 3.5 million members. So there's a lot of caching going on. But in general, the bot handles quite fine on its own. It goes down sometimes, and I've struggled, understanding why. But that's where like having a nice community comes in. They have great advice on like, tech that you should use, like PM2 and Docker, and all the stuff. So for me, tech has stayed the same, more or less, up until now, and I think I could probably stay with this tech stack for a while. But yeah, definitely starting to look into some more scaling options. So it's interesting to hear everyone's thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think when you get to the point where you have to start clustering and stuff like that, things become a bit more complex. So yeah, even
for sure.
if you're starting quite small, it can be important to kind of get that kind of like tied down before you grow too much. So, all right, okay, Nathan, how has it been for you?
Scaling double counter is probably the hardest challenge I've faced. It was a real nightmare, as you said. As I said, I'm not a developer nor pursuing tech-oriented studies, so code optimization is a real game breaker for me. Right now, the bot has never been that stable, but 1 year ago, for example, it was a catastrophe. It was crashing every 2 hours. It had problems all the time. We haven't made any major change to the tech stack since the beginning, but it required a lot of hours of research, coding, increasing resources, and external services to ensure the present stability. However, to be fully transparent, to achieve this stability, our total monthly costs are probably much higher than similar sized bots that are more stable. And that's actually because of my lack of technical skills, so I have to compensate by better hardware.
Yeah, I mean that's the challenge really with scaling is making sure your code is efficient and yeah, it's finding that balancing act between throwing more resources at it or working on the code base. It's a tough decision to make. All right. Okay, Crawl, what about you? How do you ensure that your library is effective for bots of every size?
Well, it's a hard one because currently we are monkey patching a lot of stuff for like very, very, very big bots because the sharding is definitely an issue for a lot of bots when it comes to like memory sizes. So we patched in definitely some stuff, so reduce the caching, all the stuff that you do, like member caching, message caching, and everything. But with the year 2023 coming up, we definitely want to split the whole library into like 20 sub-libraries, so you can build your own library if you want to without the whole caching stuff and everything. So like your own WebSocket, your own REST API, everything. It can just be like, even you can build your own proxy if you want and have like, I don't know, 6,000 worker shards or whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. And they all don't affect the cache. But it will take a bit of time. But currently, I think we're doing well in the upper 10K area. But once you reach like 10K, it's kind of maybe even 50K. I think that could be a bridging point. It might be a bit hard to run on not beefy hardware. It's definitely a challenge, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the recent updates over the last couple of years, as you say, have definitely been a lot better for caching. That's from my own experience. That's definitely helped me in any case. So that's great to see. All right. Okay, let's move on to our next question then. Just a couple of questions left, then we'll move on to specific questions. So how do you measure success on your projects, and do you consider your project successful? What do you think is the secret ingredient to your project's growth? Nathan?
Well, so I'm sorry, I was away. Okay, I didn't hear the question. I'm very sorry.
Sure, no worries. So how do you measure success on your project, and do you consider your product successful? And what do you think is the secret ingredient to your project's growth?
This time I would say the answer is pretty straightforward. We measure success with verification traffic in our case. I would consider my project successful because right now, when you're thinking of blocking outs on your server, the name that first comes to your mind is usually either double counter or identifier. I'm absolutely convinced that the secret ingredient to my project's growth is our proximity with our biggest servers. Just to give you an idea, my biggest servers can call me on my personal phone 24/7, and it bypasses silent mode in case they have an ongoing issue. That means that they can wake me up at 4 a.m. and I'll be here within 5 minutes to solve their problem. It might be a bit extreme, but it's really the kind of client support I try to achieve. Every day I check at that they're doing good, that their statistics are normal, that they have premium support methods, so they always get the best assistance. And I think this is the secret ingredient because they're the vectors of growth. They spread the word to other big communities, and their members who verify add double counter in the end to their own servers. So yeah, I would definitely say it's a huge incentive on the quality of support you give to your servers.
Wow, that's really impressive. That dedication to support like that. That's amazing. Yeah, I suppose that really helps help your project grow. Obviously, like if you're working with large servers, that's great to have. Okay, awesome. Okay, Kodyline, what about you?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? That was just such a lovely response from Nathan.
Yeah, sure, no worry. So it's how do you measure success, and do you consider
Yeah,
your
perfect.
projects
No, it's back to you. So yeah, we started off as pretty indie, and the code base at the time was pretty weak. So, we don't necessarily focus on growth right now. We've basically put ourselves into maintaining our current clientele, and we measure success basically on what the actual product is doing versus growth. We're going to switch back to growth once it's cleaned up pretty soon. But I guess I'm saying this in the sense that growth. If you're starting off, I wouldn't really be focusing on growth. I'd be focusing on nailing a good set of core people who believe in you and who, out of their own volition, will want to talk about you to their friends.
Sure, awesome. Okay, nice. What about you, LeMorrow? What do you think is the secret ingredient to your project's growth?
Right. I love how I think my answer is like completely different from Nathan's. Because I don't have those expectations on me since it's I'm giving my bot for free. I don't really get paid to do it, so I don't have that expectation of you need to be woken up at 4 a.m. Because some big server has issues. For me, it's more like they can come into my server, say the bot is down. I might respond in 5 hours when I'm off work or when I wake up, and it's all good. So there's sort of a mutual respect there that is different, but yeah, it's of course not as a revenue generating. But I think I measure success, of course, sort of like activity on GitHub. If I can get people to contribute and all that is fun, and I think I succeeded. And I think secret ingredient to project growth, I think it comes down to like three things probably. Number one is good user experience. This is very important, and I think Needle failed here in the beginning, where it's very spammy and it was, it was pinging a lot and it was very verbose, and people, using your bot, even if they didn't invite it, maybe they are in a server that uses it, they wouldn't want to invite it themselves if the user experience of using it is really bad. So that's what we had to iterate on that a lot and improve the user experience. The number two is probably good branding. I'd probably say is pay a professional, because if it looks professional, people are more inclined to use it. Number three is good search engine optimization. Your bot should come up like top 5 results if you search for the keywords that your bot is used for. And that's how I think most of Needle grew pretty naturally over time. So I think that's kind of how the secret ingredients in plural for me.
Amazing. Yeah, lots of interesting insights there for anyone who is interested in working on a bot. I'd also add perhaps to that TopDG, getting listed on TopDG helps.
For sure, that goes into SEO though. Because
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
top GG has great SEO, so usually if you search it, you'll get the top GG result. So top GG is a perfect website to list your bot on, and you get that for free.
Yeah, and getting your users to vote for your bot is also super helpful for appearing higher in search too. So, all right. Okay, all right, let's move on to Haas now.
Yep. So, how to measure success? I think we do that through user retention. We basically check how many people have played the bot within the last 24 hours. We do we just check the last commands, that kind of stuff, and we just count it through our database entries. It's a very cool way to know how well you're doing. It's a better variable rather than your server numbers, since people could add bots to dead servers, like servers with no people or no one's actually using it. And we consider we're currently doing well. We're doing pretty successful as we're accumulatively seeing these numbers increasing. And it's not always about how much money you're making, or how far your bot is going in server count, as long as you're building a robust audience, and people, sorry, you're building a community that's revolving around your products, and user base is actually interested. So yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in server count, but what really counts, I think, is the amount of active users, especially for a game bot. Sure. All right. Awesome. Lots of interesting insights there. So we're going to move on to our last question here for everybody, and then we're going to move on to specific questions for you. So what has been a challenging time for you as a developer working with your community? How do you find a balance between keeping your content fresh for your users and taking time for yourself? Haas, do you want to get started on this?
Right. So I think one way to help with that is definitely through server mods. They are a crucial asset to your community, and they can definitely help you get some time off, and they can handle problems or issues that are not that crucial. And that definitely gives you some free time to look away from the server and look out for yourself. And we do that just through staff forums. We make a little form so you can guess some mods. I'd recommend reading. I recommend reading through the Discord Mod Academy link for that. They can definitely give you some insight on how to vet out your mods, get some cool people to help you with your server, that kind of stuff. And but as we go, it's definitely crucial that to get some more developers to help you with your projects, especially if you're going to scale out, build more bots, that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely looking out for more devs is a cool thing to have.
I've always found it very hard to trust other people with my code. So I've been a solo dev for the last couple of years, but that's been certainly very challenging. What about you, LeMorrow? What's been a challenging time for you as a developer?
The community aspect, just building a community that is, welcoming and inclusive and friendly for everyone. Because that's also a key part of growing your bot. There needs to be nice support, and they need to be feel welcome. So I think that is challenging to do right. I think you need to set some rules and then stick by them, especially intervening when arguments show up, or when people disagree, or they start breaking the rules. I think you need to be able to step in and actually take action, even if they're some core members or contributors. You have to still be able to steer the boat, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great having, at least if you don't want to have people helping you with coding, at least get some people to help you with moderation. I definitely agree on that. All right. Okay, let's move on to Kodyline. What's been a challenging time for you?
I think it was the decision whether to keep this a hobby or to go full at it. And I think that's really important to kind of, make a decision upfront. It kind of impacts how you spend your free time and how much, vis-a-vis lost sleep you lose. And it's about making real peace with that idea that, hey, I am doing this for me, or I'm doing this for a business. And when you make that decision, it's challenging because you want to exceed your boundaries if you're doing this for yourself, but then you're losing, what you kind of signed up for. So I guess it's really important and challenging to make the decision whether this is a hobby. I am going to set my boundaries. It is either I'm available or I'm not available, and my end users need to be aware that this is a passion, or the opposite, the complete opposite. I am in servitude of my customers because I want to make something great, and it's about making that decision early. Kind of ensures that you're not going to leave yourself disappointed with how you feel about it and how your end users feel about it and how you understand where it's going.
Yeah, setting those expectations is super important, I think. And I mean, as soon as you start to bring premium subscriptions into the mix, that means people have certain expectations as well that they expect of you. And yeah, making that decision, whether you go business or just a hobby, it's challenging indeed. All right, Nathan, what about you? What's been a challenging time for you as a developer?
A challenging time was probably the period when we had all those technical issues 1 year ago that were spreading distrust among our community. It was hard to manage on one side the intensive fixing of the code and on the other side the communication with the community. Fortunately, we have an amazing support team that was here to help with it. As for the balance, personally, I had never really had problems balancing between Double Counter and my personal life, mainly because to me, coding and working on Double Counter is a real pleasure, really like equivalent to playing a video game, for instance. As Kodyline said, it's all about setting the limit between what's a hobby and what you must do, but in my case, even making a sacrifice to some extent for the project still remains a pleasure, because in the end, seeing the project grow and seeing to where it goes is bigger than the sacrifice in itself.
Absolutely. Very interesting take there. Yeah, and I totally relate to the issues like that, because I had that issue last year. Back in September, my bot was like offline for a whole month. I couldn't find what the issue was. People complaining in support, and it's like, yeah, I know it's very stressful. Yeah. All right, Kroll, what about you? What's been a challenging time for you as a developer?
I think pleasing users is very hard as a library developer. I think it's especially harder than being a bot developer. Like, if you have a bot, you usually do a very specific thing. If you have a library, you need to cover like all bases. Very hard. It also ties into the whole, why can't we have this feature? Why can't we have this feature? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do this? People fusing us with Discord. So us like wanting us to implement something that is on the platform, which is not really something we do. I get the confusion. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, generally just, supporting people too. Really hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I can kind of relate to that as well at Top GG. All right. Okay, we're going to go on to specific questions for specific panelists now. So we're going to go back to Kroll. So Discord is constantly releasing new features in the API, as you mentioned, for bot developers to be able to make the most of them. Having a quick turnaround time and maintaining a Discord library that is used by a large portion of Discord bots out there today sounds like a pretty daunting task. So how is the process of keeping that library up to date, all while trying not to make too many breaking changes between releases? How has that been for the DJS team?
Yeah, we had a lot of controversy about this topic because, the whole version 14 and version 13 jump, where things were renamed unnecessarily and whatever. But it's a hard split between trying to keep something maintainable and usable, like having a good developer experiences and having a good contributor experience. It's very hard to maintain. So it's really hard, like when Discord just comes up with like 5 features out of nowhere almost, because sometimes Discord is usually very, very, very good at telling us what's coming, but most features, are either under strict NDA, so I can barely talk about it even with my own contributors. So I just know it's coming and I can kind of prepare for it. But other features that just get thrown into the water and like we don't even know anything about it, and we just have like, I don't know, a week or 2 until we kind of want to have at least a development version of the feature so people can start using it at least. But it's very hard. It's very hard. It's not easy. I think the hardest one was forums and threads, I think, because those dragged out really, really long. They were released. The documentation was not done on Discord side. So we had to wait because we can't release a feature that is not fully documented because Discord might change it any time, right? People already used it. They wanted to use it in their bot. You can obviously always go around and do it manually without the library's help, but we just can't do it. We can't put it into the library if we know it's going to change, because once it changes, we have this problem of like we need to do a breaking change, and then we need to tell everyone to update their code, and then the bot doesn't run smoothly anymore because it crashes, or because the methods don't exist anymore, and so on and so on. It's a hard struggle sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. Yeah, okay, awesome. Okay, moving on to Hoss now. So Hoss, both of your bots, Isles.gg and Bake.gg, are highly aesthetic and have some really nice visuals in them. They really make them stand out from other bots in the same category. So how has the process of keeping your content fresh and engaging been? And what advice would you give to a developer who wants to build out an economy system in their bot?
Right. So with the engaging content, it's been ups and down. We just try our best to like focus with like user suggestions, since they're the ones who actually play the game, and they probably have like very critical and constructive feedback on how to make the bot game developer make the game bot better. As for advice I would give for developers, I would say that you should put yourself in the user's shoes, whereas you should work on stuff from a user perspective. Like look at how they play the game. Look at ways that you can improve it, make the process easier. Since in Discord, it's like there's a lot of restrictions. Since you're using a chat platform, and it's not as smooth as playing on like a game device or like something like that. So yeah, you should just try to make the process easier for them, the user experience. And if you want to build a game, I think that you have to like look for something that's not been done before, and like trying to find like a cool theme, and just try to focus on user retention, because that's a critical variable in game about development. Maybe you can like incorporate leaderboards, something like that. That usually helps like build user retention. So like that's something to focus on, and that's all I could say for now.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to game bots, it's definitely good to have something that stands out and no other bot does. I think that's a great way of keeping people engaged for sure. Okay, cool. Kodyline, what about you? So, our question for you is: your bot uses AI to help server owners moderate chat and keep their servers safe. So, what role do you think AI will play in the future of Discord moderation? And do you think more developers should turn to AI and apply these technologies in their bots in order to stay ahead of Discord's new native moderation tools?
Yeah, I feel Discord's native moderation tools, I mean, from experience, most of the new Discord staff who work in safety were previously in, AI content moderation companies of their own. So we do expect AI content moderation in the realm of toxicity to be first party within, I'd say, a year from now. That's not under any NDA or anything. That's just a prediction. So I think it's not wise to enter into specifically AI content moderation for toxicity, given that Discord is clearly um, poised to go towards that. We don't know if that'll be a premium. We don't know how they'll fund that, but it's likely. So I feel like AI has a part in the non-moderation of the server. In our case, it's kind of a niche that is quite well received. And I don't think Discord will let that be part of their feature set. But we know that more niche things. Maybe it's too early to say, but ChatGPT basically said as a signpost that it's going to be releasing an API soon, and I feel that's going to be quite incredible for bot developers in line with AI in itself. I mean, a lot of the time, most bots are, they have scripts. They read off what they're supposed to say, or they might be using GPT to kind of give, friendly back and forth. But I definitely think that if your bot relies on a lot of personal ability, or you have to kind of be able to understand a little bit more context at scale, I think it's quite interesting what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think like as you mentioned, ChatGPT as well, like integrating that into a Discord bot can open so many doors too. Yeah, it's even like I saw there was a Reddit thread about ChatGPT writing a whole Dungeons and Dragons scenario for someone. Super creative. Amazing to see that
Just
from
to add to
AI.
that, it's like you shift from designing the quest to designing the seed, of which becomes the prompt, of which becomes the unique story. So it's almost like, instead of you worrying about the intricate details and competing with it, you should be worrying about, how can I nail that interactivity experience? How can I bridge the the interactivity between the future ChatGPT and Discord, I'd be focusing more on the developer experience and whether you can make the end user experience better than a competitor of the future. I wouldn't be focusing more on how to get the best out of it.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. All right. Super interesting. Can't wait to see how this plays out with AI in the future on Discord. All right. Okay. Next is Nathan. So Nathan, your bot is the largest on the panel here today, and you recently acquired Alt-Identifier too, as you mentioned. So how has the process of growing your bot been, and how do you see the future of keeping servers safe from malicious alt accounts with Discord's own recent efforts to reduce spam?
I might be repeating myself a bit, but growing the bot in itself has been an amazing adventure that I would do again every day. It's been really amazing seeing the server count grow up and up and up. I believe that Discord's recent changes to reduce spam, I'm thinking of Automod, for example, are very logical from their point of view. And in fact, I have no argument to criticize them whatsoever, even if they're scary for bot developers. I believe that in any case, there will still there will still be a need for external tools and bots. I hardly see Discord implementing an anti-auto count system comparing data like we do. First, for political reasons, because they would be more careful with the systems relying on data collection than we are. The stakes are not the same, obviously. And also for complexity reasons, they want to make an accessible product, so an anti-alt wouldn't really fit with their product, I believe. So yeah, I still see a bright future for server protection because I believe that Discord features will be quite limited and that bots will always provide more options in that field. And in any case, we'll try our best to contribute to that global effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you mentioned, obviously it's great to see Discord bring in a lot of these features and build more safety and protection into the platform itself. But I think, as you say, there are potentially like limits to how far they can go, and bots will always have a place for that, I think. Okay, LeMorrow. So your bot Needle uses threads to allow server owners to create fully customized ticket systems. So there are lots of ticket bots out there already. What made you want to make use of threads in this way? And are there any features that you would like to see from the Discord API in the future, which you'd like to build on?
Yeah, so as I mentioned previously, the bot had to be really frictionless to use. Like, you basically shouldn't even know that the bot exists for this to work, because threads were so new in the beginning. Nobody knew how to use them. Nobody knew how to make them. So we really needed something. So the only thing you had to do was know how to send a message, and then you would get this like thread experience automatically. So that's why we made this. And then speaking of the API, they came up with forums, which is a perfect thing for this, because it really solves the same problem pretty much, just like many of the other people had here, where it's now it's first party solved, which is great UX wise for all the users. And I can still think of like a handful single purpose bots that could work with forums in a great way. Send a message when a forum post is created, just with basic information, is something a lot of people is asking me about, for example. That's a great bot idea, and I know there are a bunch of other stuff you could do to improve the forum experience even more. So that's something I would love to see people experiment more with, that part of the API. I also think if Discord should release anything that would be exciting, I think it would be the multi-page modals, because they add modals now, but you can only have one at a time. I think multi-page will really take it to the next level, and of course, different sort of text inputs. So you can have number inputs, you get a select, drop downs and all that inside modals. I would also, really start giving developers tools to really increase enhance the user experience for sure. But in general, I think they should probably focus on API stability first. I know Crawl probably has an opinion or two about that, but yeah, the API stability is the API has broken a few times, taken down our bot without any warning, and then that's nothing you can do as a developer to guard against that. You have to open a ticket on GitHub, and then they have to respond and revert their changes and be like, oh, sorry. So getting a stable API and just planning ahead a bit more, I think is, if there's anything they should focus on, it's probably that.
All right. Yeah, I think so. I think that's definitely true. I think there are some really cool features too. As you mentioned, like in modals, I think one thing I'm hoping for is a date time input interaction method that would just send like a Unix time code. Yeah, it'd be so good to have. It would fix all of these issues with time zones. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on now to our open AMA. So there are some questions that have been submitted from listeners in the public here. We're probably going to run for another maybe 15-30 minutes max. We're just going to get through these questions, and then we'll be done for the day. So the first question is from Syjalo, I think, and this one is specifically for Crawl, asking, will there be an official Discord.js framework?
To keep this short, no, we don't want to be opinionating how people build their bots. You can build your own framework. There's another great framework out there we always recommend it, which is Sapphire. If you want to use it, cool. It's very opinionated. If you like that stuff, go ahead. We only help people in the guide with help, like building a tiny command handler, but how you expand on that and how you build your bot is completely your thing. Especially when we split up the library and you can, take parts of it, like your own WebSocket, your own REST instance. Things don't work anymore really as a command handler or like a framework or anything. So I think everyone should just build their own system. It's definitely better and better for the experience of like learning a language too.
Yeah. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, family friendly now. This question is for everyone. So how do you find the motivation to continuously support and maintain your projects for years upon years? Just anyone feel free to jump in if you have an answer there.
Sure, I can say something. So I think the community is a crucial motivator, since they're the ones they're the ones who hype you about like next updates and that kind of stuff. They're always basically cheering up for you. So I think keeping a good relationship with your community and with your audience, with the people who use your bot, is a crucial thing. I think that's just the biggest motivation.
Yeah, I guess I have an opinion where it's like, yeah, you can go for years, but I think it's also good to recognize that maybe your interest might wane, and maybe someone else in your community or in your team who you trust might be more interested, who may have came at a later date, who may have more of a vested interest in using it. So if, keeping interested is its own subtopic, and there's ways of doing it. But if you ever come to a point after a couple of years where you don't want to be working on it anymore, you should feel that it's okay to just pass on the reign. I mean, it's happened for most projects in open source. You shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't have to feel like you have to close down the castle just because you've lost interest. So you should keep going until you feel like you'd rather work on something else. And if that's still the case, you should find someone who will keep it going.
Yeah, I think I will just add on to that, which is like take breaks. Very important. Take a week off. Go away. Turn off your notifications. If it's really highly critical, sure, keep those on. But maybe even if you have a big project, you probably have some contributors, you probably have some other maintainers. Just let them know you're going to be away. That's fine.
Yeah, taking breaks is super important for sure. All right. Okay, we'll move on then to our next question. This one is specifically for Crawl again. So with the not so recent abandonment of Discord.py by Danny, and then the development being resumed again, should I rely on Discord.py for a really big project?
Yeah, I think you can. Danny's a good guy. He probably just had his reasons why he doesn't want to do it anymore, but it was only a question of time, I think. And Discord.py is elaborate enough for you to continue working, having a really, really big project if you want to have it in Python. And if it ever sunsets, there will be forks and there will be other people who will be stepping up. Even if they're not maintaining the main library, they will either fork it or whatever, and they will have an easy upgrade path into this new library. So you will have no issue switching. And even if it doesn't get any updates anymore, as long as the API version is still supported by Discord, you can keep this thing running for years still.
Yeah, that's the great thing about open source, right? Okay. Next question is from Fellintron, who's a mod here at TopGG. And this one's specifically for Nathan, and he asks, what algorithm is used by Double Counter to detect alternative accounts in brief if possible? And he also says it's probably private.
Sure. For double counter, we use a variety of factors. We use IP address, browser cookies. We store cookies on the users' browsers. We use location, as well as browser fingerprinting techniques, and we combine all those factors in a scoring system. I can't give exact coefficients or scoring measures, but we score all this and output a global score that determines if the account is considered an out or not.
All right.
I don't know if I replied to the whole question.
All right. Yep. I think that's a great answer. Okay. I think that's as detailed as it can be for sure. All right. We're gonna move on now to the next question. This one is from Past, and he asks for Crawl. Do you think you have personally influenced younger people to pick up coding for Discord bots as a hobby?
Probably. I don't have any age statistics, right? Because we don't really, like, Discord doesn't really give them out, and I don't really want to collect them either, right? Like, age doesn't really matter as long as you know, if you're able to use Discord by the TOS, you're fine. But you can see, right? Sometimes you can observe how old people are, like the way they talk, the way they write, or something, right? Like, it might be a bit prejudice influence, but you usually can judge how old they might be. But yeah, I think we have influenced definitely quite a few people picking up not only Discord bots but coding in general as a hobby through Discord bots.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I mean, we see a lot of people starting into bot development at TopGG, and most of them, like the very vast majority, are using Discord.js. So I think it's definitely a gateway into development for sure. All right, next question is from Johand, who's a community manager here at TopGG. And this one's for everyone, I think. And he asks, how well do you think Discord communicates upcoming changes? How well do you think they allow testing of changes before full rollout and time frame before breaking changes? And have they gotten better at it or worse? Just anyone feel free to jump in.
I can jump in a little bit, but I love to hear Crawl's opinion on this as well. But I mean, for me, working with threads that early on, it was really a wild ride. They were really changing a lot about how threads should work, and recently I changed how the auto archive should work, which I was not, I didn't feel like I was informed in advance for that. And as I said before, API is sometimes just broken overnight, and then my bot doesn't work anywhere anymore, and then I have to open an issue in Discord and have them revert it, and hopefully find a quick workaround. So I think Discord could definitely improve in that. I don't know, over time, I don't have a lot of experience, but I feel like it's, a lot with the threads and the forums. It's been a lot, but that's also where my bot usually does things, so that's what I notice, but I'm sure there are other things as well.
Yeah, just jump in quickly. I think it definitely got better. 2 or 3 years ago, it was really, really bad. We almost had like zero communication on everything. But I think right now they're doing a good job at like giving a heads up, not only to us library developers, but also to big bot developers. Because there's a lot of people who use a library, but they may, use it in a way that doesn't really rely on the library having something implemented, because the libraries usually allow you to do something that the library doesn't do yet. So having those big developers, like, asking them for feedback and everything, I think is also kind of important. I think they're doing a way better job right now. There have been a few breaking changes that were not announced, but they kind of had to do it because of API stability, which is fine, I guess, but it's always a bit annoying because you kind of have to really quickly patch the library or let every big bot developer know, like, yo, this is going to break. You guys need to, make sure that this is not going to break in your code, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone else want to jump in on this? Or should we move on? All right, let's move on. Okay, so next question is from Emir, who is a bot reviewer here at TopDG, and he asks, where do you see yourselves in 5 years? Just feel free to jump in there.
Well, I definitely feel I want to push how far you can actually build a business on Discord and Telegram as a scalable one, and I feel that we're just at the right timing where Discord is probably just got the sense where it needs to start scaling. Like I mentioned earlier, that they have investors, they have a lot of millions in dollars that they need to make returns on, and they finally started getting people, especially brands, more interested in using this as a medium for hosting and enabling their community to connect. So I think, with that said, I think I'm, I want to push how far you can build a business with venture capital on Discord without, lying to myself.
All right, anyone
yeah,
else?
I think I can say something to that because I think 5 years is a long time. Having a plan long term is a good idea, but I think 5 years is a bit long, especially in like the whole IT world. But I think like when I say like 1 or 2 years, I think I would probably still work on Discord.js. As long as Discord doesn't go down, right? They're gonna be here. They're gonna keep developing things. I think that counts for like all of us, I guess. But yeah.
Cool. Anyone else want to chip in on what they think they'll be doing in 5 years' time? All right. Okay, let's move on then. We have another question here from Official. An Official asks, what would you say to people wanting to start Discord bot development but unsure where to start? Or constantly being faced with challenges and quickly being dissuaded, I guess, or wanting to give up?
Well, I guess it's going to be a classical answer, but I would say that you learn by doing and you learn by trying. And there is no other way to learn that, to me at least, than by actually doing it. Doing projects is the best way to learn coding. If you learn coding on classes, it will be a lot less efficient than if you actually do it, actually fix bugs, and get more familiar with the coding and the libraries you use. So I would just say to like do it and don't get discouraged.
Yeah, to add to that, I mean, the best form of keeping yourself motivated is accountability, I mean, for me, I can't speak for everyone else. But if you have people who are depending, maybe it's 5 people, maybe 10 people, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000, maybe 20, billion people, I'm joking, of course, but if you can get people to depend on you, you have a lot more incentive to resist the urge to give up. And that's just the basis of it. It's like you're either, these people are depending on you for functionality X, and you'd be surprised how either quickly you learn or you find out that this is probably something you might want to do full term.
Yeah, I think you should just not be too too much perfectionism is not good. Try to just push out stuff, push out changes, push out features. If they don't work yet, fix them. If you have bugs, fix them. Don't focus too much on like this needs to be perfect, this needs to be perfect. Follow some good guidelines, but don't try to be perfect. Just push out stuff. Like be there. Like completely always overhaul like everything you have. If it works, can you do better? Maybe. Just always be there. Like the moment you slow down your progress, that's when you hit like a wall, I think. So you always want to like push out things so people can see that you're working on things, and that's also how you grow, not only as a person but also as a product itself, right? Try to be better than the competition. It's always hard, right? Because everyone's competing with everyone, but just keep on pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you want to start bot development but you're unsure where to start, I guess just make a bot that you think would be useful for your server, and I think that's a great way of getting started on a project which can end up being unique as well. All right. Next question is from Big Bun. So what are your what is your opinion on new features on Discord? And are these things that you can see integrating into your bots anytime soon? So I suppose for this they mean maybe perhaps forums, auto mod, stuff like that Discord has recently released.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming from the position where it's like sometimes you feel that Discord is relying on you to provide the functionality that they either don't have the time to produce or they won't produce. And then sometimes I'm like, why, building this now, will they just be building this in 5 months? So I guess it's like finding those, you know, those actual needs that don't really seem as obvious that Discord will just try and reproduce. I don't know, that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's kind of
absolutely.
hard to have features that your bot relies on, and then they get taken over by Discord. Finding that niche might be hard, but I think even if you implement something that Discord is going to take over in 5 months, I think it's still worth, because you're going to cover that track for 5 months, and you may have a better feature set than what Discord will actually implement, and you may be able to adapt to whatever they implemented and just extend the functionality with what you had before. But now you have like partial native and partial custom integration with your own feature, which might even make the native feature better, right? So there's always this trade-off that you have to go on, but I think it's still worth it to keep on doing things that, instead of just focusing on, oh, what if Discord is going to do that? Oh, what if Discord is going to sunset my bot in like 5 months because they released this feature? I think that kind of mindset is pretty toxic to yourself.
I can completely agree with that, because that's basically what Needle had, right? Because we wanted, every message in a channel to be a thread, and then they came up with forums, and now we're like, well, no, they kind of already did that. So, I would probably recommend forums over Needle for 90% of use cases, and that's just me being honest. Even though I am developer of Needle, so I want people to use it, but at the end of the day, what matters is like user experience, and then I think forums is better, but that doesn't mean like the past year hasn't been worth it for me. So I definitely have to agree there that I would still do it again, even if I knew, Forums is coming out in a year. Would you still do Needle? Yeah, I probably would, because it was really a mess, that 1 year where we didn't have anything. So if I didn't do it, someone else would have. So I think, yeah, it was definitely worth it. So yeah, definitely don't get stuck in that mindset that Discord might fix it for me, because you can do better probably.
Yeah, I think not too much knowledgeable about Needle itself, but I think the one thing that, even though you have forums now, I think it's still kind of important to realize that forums are a very bare bone construct, right? So there's still a lot of automation you can do inside of those forums. So it might not be Needle's responsibility to completely rewrite how it works, but there might be like another bot upcoming from the same developer even that does this kind of automation that you need in forums that is just missing on Discord's native side, right? So it just spawns a new bot idea that builds on top of that native feature, which can definitely work, right? And I think it's very important to be on the lookout for that.
Yeah,
I just have
exactly.
one last point is like, maybe if your feature is around for long enough and it's developed long enough, there is an argument to be made that most people might just prefer yours over native if the feature set is still more familiar. There's always the classical case where you have, third party and then the integration comes along and is first party and then there's a mass exodus. It doesn't really it might stop new adoption of that feature, but it still will retain a good chunk of people who still enjoy your, envisioning of it.
Yeah, for sure. And we still see people, not to hog too much on Needle here, but, we still see people add Needle every day. We're still growing, 10, 20 servers every day. So people still clearly use Needle for something. So, yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of value to just make a bot that you enjoyed making.
Yeah, lots of interesting takes there, for sure. All right. It's been super interesting so far. We're going to just do one last question here. So, do you have one piece of advice you'd like to share with someone who wants to be a bot developer? Just feel free to jump in.
Sure, I'll go first real quick. Just have fun. Have fun at what you're doing. Have fun what you're building. don't get too drowned in like all the other bots that are out there, all the other successful bots that are out there. Just have fun.
Yep. And to add to that, doesn't have to be about money. You can make it about money, but it could just be a fun hobby project. It could be good for your CV. Play around with open source, use some tech you want to use. But just have fun. Yeah, I just have to agree.
Crow's point is so important. I have to say it twice. Be happy, have fun.
Having fun is a very important point. I would maybe add something. Ask for feedback and listen to feedback. Servers are what will determine your bot success. So I think you should pay the utmost attention to them and to what users tell you in the first steps of your bot development.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks everyone for your feedback, for your opinions and all of this. It's been great having you here on today's panel. Thanks so much for your time, and thank you to everyone who joined us to listen in. If you want to if you have like a few things you'd like to shout out, just to end up today's podcast for today's discussion. This will be available on Spotify as well, by the way, as a recording, and also on YouTube. So feel free to shout out any projects you're working on, or even just your bots or whatever. So just go ahead, just jump in.
Okay, go on, Haas.
Oh, nothing. No, you go. I was just gonna say, yeah, Top G is cool. That's it. Signing off for the day. It's cool.
So where can we find you on Top G?
Yeah, I guess my kind of contribution is like, I'd say embrace the idea that people are kind of migrating away from traditional, monolithic social networks to, networks like we are here. We're still pretty early, and it is in our interest to kind of have multiple presences across different platforms, but Discord still is the most viable, and I think, we should all, believe that it has the ability to replace most verticals that we communicate on anyway.
Sure. Where can we find Chatsight for anyone listening in?
Yeah, so Chatsight, it's discord.gg/Chatsight if you want to join. And yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Haas, where can we find your projects?
It's on discord.gg/quartz or quartz.gg. That's the main company holding everything. So yeah, I'd love to see some of you guys there.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay. What about you, LeMorrow? Where can we find your bot?
Yeah, just needle.gg if you're interested in making a thread on every message in a channel.
Awesome. Nathan, what about you? Where can people find your projects?
You can find it on decounter.space. The domain is a bit complicated, but yeah, decounter.space.
Decounter. Okay, awesome. And Crawl, obviously, Discord.js. Where can we follow you?
Discord.js.org, discord.js.dev, and discord.js.guide. All of them are there. And you can always join the server too. They're all linked on the website. Yeah, have fun building a bot. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in today. Looking forward to getting to see your projects in a bit more detail after I look them up. To see what other things as well you're working on. It'll be super exciting. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Back.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.